This is Comic Shenanigans, episode 1126, Creator Spotlight on Chris Claremont.
Ain't no stopping them shenanigans. Love getting into shenanigans. All up in them shenanigans. 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 Shenanigans.
Welcome to the Comic Shenanigans podcast. I'm your host, Adam Chapman. This is episode 1126. It's yet another creator spotlight. This time we're talking about Chris Claremont. I'm your host, Adam Chapman. I'm joined by my co-host for these episodes, Nathan Struck. Nathan, say hello.
Hi, it's me. I'm going to use my voice, which is the sum totality of my mental power, manifest in a series of sounds of waves, or wave sounds. Wait. What's the word? What's the science? I'm missing the last word. Sound waves? Oh, it's simple as that. Sorry, I screwed it up. Okay, start again.
What I will say, people who are listening cannot see that you are wearing an awesome shirt that has Ecto 1 going after the Pac-Man ghosts. So I very much appreciate your shirt today, sir.
The ball's forgiven then for me flubbing that last little line then.
So we're going to talk about Chris Claremont, but we're not talking your usual Chris Claremont. We're talking about three very odd projects. One is at least more typical. The other two, definitely not. We're going to go back first to 1973. We're going to experience Daredevil 103. That's 102, right? 102, sorry. So I'm curious, first of all, my usual question, have you ever read this issue before?
No, never.
Have you read any Daredevil pre-Miller, or even Miller?
Well, I mean, I've read pieces of Miller, like, Born Again.
So later Miller.
Yeah, like later Miller stuff. No, I have not. This is my continued shame. I have the first volume of the Epic line, where he starts his run, and the plan is to, collect that whole run in Epic format, and then hopefully one day to discuss it with you. But no, this is not an era of Daredevil I'm familiar with.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, restate. I'm familiar with the San Francisco Natasha duo combo thing. I'm familiar with it in other media. I'm familiar with it with covers and references in Daredevil. But I think maybe I've read one Daredevil Black Widow issue, and I can't even remember what happened. But I remember them doing stuff. And then obviously, Guardian Devil, and Tasha's right there right away, and she's all like, "Hey, what's this baby?" And he's like, "Watch the baby while I go look and see if I can go talk to the devil or something." And she's like, "What? I was an Avenger." So I have those references to this era, but yeah, this is, I guess, a blind spot, right? And I'm sorry, that's not meant to be a pun. That was not intended. Sorry, I apologize.
Usually your puns are very much intended, so this one was not so.
I guess so, yeah.
So this is very different. So this is very early Claremont. It's not quite his first, I believe, published Marvel work, but I don't think whatever his first work was actually showed up anywhere on Marvel Unlimited. So this was pretty early to his beginning of his career. As I said, it's 1973. So this is, pre-X-Men Chris Claremont. This is him just kind of figuring out, I guess, his narrative style. He wrote this. You got art by Sid Shores, Frank Giacoia on inks, Artie Simic on colors. It's edited by Roy Thomas. So how did you feel about this issue? Did you enjoy this issue, or was this a slog for you?
No, I enjoyed it. I mean, for me, it's all in the context of an author who will become, his own world builder, get a handle on his voice for the most part, become, kind of a legacy writer, rebooting the X-Men like he's pivotal, integral to the development of Marvel Comics. And of course, to see him building these pieces, these structures, these parts of his storytelling or his style over the years as we jump around, that made this much more interesting for me to kind of see, his draw to female characters and wanting to use female characters as much as possible, even though he's kind of in a situation where he has a book with a male star. So it's kind of, I don't know. I thought as soon as I saw that it was a Black Widow Daredevil story, I was like, oh, this seems like he'd be more at ease. In Iron Fist, he's quickly putting in characters, Colleen Wing, right, and
Misty Knight?
Misty Knight. I know her name, and for some reason I blanked. Really cool and enduring characters, and girlfriends and all this other stuff. So it's nice that that's kind of baked in here. Natasha wasn't used as much as I thought she would be, but there's definitely a lot of interplay and lines that I would imagine the average kind of intended audience of juvenile boys would be disinterested in. And so even some of the references that we'll get to, it's like throws in references to like a musical I'd never even heard of, but then read up on, and it was like, oh wow, this sounds fascinating and interesting. I'm sure this is really important, like in the theater world and the music world. And so I'm like on Wikipedia reading stuff that it's a throwaway line, like so Claremontian. Well, at the same time, just as you said, very much finding his voice, because he's like clearly also influenced by Stan Lee.
Oh yeah.
So he's doing like Lee-isms, lots of bunky and those kinds of, I don't know, retro insults. And yet at the same time, he's also distinctly Claremont. So yeah, in that context, I found it actually quite interesting and fun to explore. But the actual story itself and the characters, most of them didn't really grab me.
It is interesting because his narration, like later on, when he does it on like X-Men, it's not as conversational. It's much more this highfalutin, like, you know, again, explaining everything to, you know, a lot of detail, but he's not talking directly to you as a reader. Whereas here he is. There's a lot of like references to you. You're reading the story. We're telling you this story. Words like pilgrim, you know, like this is San Francisco pilgrim, not New York. Dig. Like there's a lot of, and again, like you said, that feels like very much like something Stan would have done. Oh, we're looking at the exact same page. Excellent.
Same page. Yeah.
That's definitely something that Stan would have done in the 60s. So it feels very much like of that era. So like he's kind of aping this other style, which doesn't feel like him yet, but he does like narration. He just hasn't figured out the best delivery system for the narration, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I like that he changes that perspective, the first person, second person, third person in his narration, where he'll talk to, like there's Iron Fist issues where he's talking to Iron Fist as though the narrator is an outside character, you know, saying, "Don't you, Iron Fist?" Right? And he'll do the same thing in X-Men. I can't remember the issue. Is the Demon issue? Cyclops is outside of the mansion, and it's that like fantastic series of panels where the narrator is like berating Cyclops. Don't you, Cyclops? Don't you? Don't you? And he screams, goes, ah, and he blasts some kind of magical, I don't remember what the word is, like sclanch or something like that, and it's a cursed kind of rock, and then it opens up some kind of portal or whatever, and like a demon comes through, a monster comes through. But the fact that like Cyclops is kind of almost like reacting is in conversation with the narrator, so yeah, like that is fun to see him as well, him immersion play with the different narrative techniques. Not so many thought bubbles. The more I read him, or have been reading him, a lot of New Mutants happens a lot as well, but of course X-Men, there's a charm to the way he uses thought bubbles, and often they're not just, sometimes it happens, but like as the more he writes, the more they actually are deep and meaningful thoughts, the more they are in contradictions. The character will say one thing and think another. Whereas for a lot of other authors, they're just thinking the words that they would be saying anyway. They're other narrators, the thoughtful ones. So I noticed that was, you know, not entirely missing here, but I guess my most enjoyable moment is when Natasha and Matt are kind of having a fight. He says something a little bit condescending to her, quite condescending to her on the roof, and then as he's swinging away, he immediately goes, "No, that's not what I meant. Too late, Murdoch. Always too late." I love this idea that they're swinging away, right, in this impossible arc off of two buildings, and he's like, "Well, I screwed up. Oh well." You know, there's no back communicator, so he can kind of like communicate, radio to her or something like that, or Avengers call button. But that interplay between the two of them, and saying the wrong thing and knowing you've just said the wrong thing, and the other person, you know how they're going to take it, and you've hurt them. That's a nice little, right? He's self-aware. He's criticizing himself for missing something. Like, that's both very Marvel, and the thought bubble use is really Claremontian, so I enjoyed that. But
I'm not surprised that you would mention that, only because you and I both have a kind of favorite moment in Bendis' run where he has the lecture on the rooftop and he's like, don't say it to himself. And he's like, and you said it. Like that moment of like, he knows he shouldn't do this thing, but he does it anyway, and then immediately has this regret about it. And like this angst, this anguish, which feels so so authentic to him. So it doesn't surprise me that you would kind of point out a similar type of moment, a more 70s version of it, but similar idea.
Yeah, and it's nice to see this kind of Lothario, very ladies' man-esque, or women are drawn to him. He dates a lot of women, and women seem to love him, and he loves them to varying degrees of, he's had eras of more misogyny and less as he's gone through his career, but to see that he's not fully wholly confident, right? He's not, he has a sense of, again, that awareness that he doesn't always know the right thing to say to women, and that especially with Bendis, like he knows he's going to screw up. It's like, my emotions are telling me I want to say something. I want to be tender. I want to express myself to her, but I know Elektra better than almost anyone, and I know this isn't going to go right, and he does it anyway. So this is hard out there, and kind of screws it up, but that's enjoyable for me because that's kind of what my life is like. Like I'm constantly doing that and wanting to say something and not saying it and then regretting it. Not always to a woman, but like not 0% of the time either. And or saying the thing that I think or feel, and then as soon as you let it out of your mouth, right? It's like, no, I wish I could take that back. So yeah, very relatable, and that makes him a more appealing character. So in other instances, Claremont is disinterested in the male character altogether, and you can tell he's disinterested. He seems to have some affinity for Matt.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't expect that. One thing that I did bump on a little bit is just it felt very like I have no sense from this issue what Matt does at all. Like what is Matt Murdock? Like this, like I think some of the best Marvel comics are the ones where, and we see this a lot in Spider-Man, where it's just as much an emphasis on the man as the spider. So generally speaking, so we are interested as an audience in what Peter is doing, sometimes just as much as what Spider-Man's doing, because we're made to care. And yet here, Matt shows up in like one panel at home when he's just kind of and talking with Black Widow about what their next move should be, and then it's just old Daredevil all the time, which is fine. It just did make me wonder, like if this is the only issue I've read of 70s Daredevil, does this make me want to read another issue? Well, I don't have any sense of what the next issue is even going to look like, because I don't know who Matt is from this. I know who he is as a superhero, but what else is there going on in this book? I don't know. But also, maybe there's not enough room for that because Black Widow's there too. You have to service both, and so it means maybe there's less of Matt and the civilian guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much for the villain here too. That seems to be a point of interest, a clear point of interest for Claremont, and I'm not really sure why. I guess he has affinity for Stuntman. It's also like a silly plan. I mean, I suppose it's the 70s, and
we did just recently read a Polka Dot Man story from Batman, like 10 years before this. Like, that was silly. Like, I do agree, like, this is not any version of Stiltman I'm used to. Like, he seems a lot more evil here for no real reason. And, like, I feel like especially when you see him in Miller's run or even Bendis' run, like, he's a bit more of a sad sack. He's a bit more of like that Stiltman. Like, he's just a doofus. He's actually given a lot more respect here, but at the same time, he's still doing kind of dumb things. But I don't know if I understand his motivations per se. They take him down pretty easy. He loses his gun. There's no there's no resolution on the gun.
Immediately losing the gun. Natasha, I think it's Natasha, just like gone. Like, okay.
But they don't look for it.
Where are you getting this thing?
Like, it's just like in this one issue. And I guess the one other thing I want to mention is that Daredevil is not as kind here. Like, you have this doctor who's been run ragged, his daughter's missing, he's freaking out, he's so worried that Wilbur Day is going to kill her, and he just slaps the guy, like, not now. Does Day have the condenser with him? And he's just like, even the narration's like, Daredevil hasn't time to be gentle, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, the guy has been this, he's just been this guy's captive. His daughter's life has been threatened. She could be dead right now, and he's freaking out, understandably. And he's just like, "I don't have time for your shit. Give me the answer I need." Like, I was like, "Whoa, that's rough."
Yeah, the whole thing has this, I don't know, little hints or I don't know, vestiges of what would later become an exploration for DC. And obviously, Alan Moore is doing stuff where in this era, like being the Miracle Man of it all, and then into Watchmen of the deconstruction of the superhero and the taking of the villains, which are almost always, you know, hyper corny in the 50s and 60s, and then giving them a real dark edge. I was also surprised, not just by the matte violence and the intolerance for almost like, I don't know, a plot device, but because that's ultimately what the character is. But, you know, he's supposed to be a character. He's supposed to be a human man, a civilian who deserves some kind of like dignity. But yeah, it's still not himself. It also smacks him, and immediately multiple extremely uncomfortable threats of violence, sexual violence upon the daughter. I'll get my thug to, you know, I'm not going to read what he says, but like ultimately like have his way with her. You know, she's drawn in like a nightie with like, you know, the strap coming down on her shoulder, and she's tied on a bed. So there's the euphemisms he used to imply and suggest violence and sexual violence, and then there's also the visual of it. I get the damsel in distress, but this is not just like a cheesy, pulpy Flash Gordon kind of feel to it. This is a darker thing. This is almost like moving in the direction of horror comics, where, you know, they were considered way too adults for kids, and that was a huge issue at the time, and even the covers and the way that women were depicted. So yeah, his plan involves $1 billion ransom, which again, in 70s money, geez, $1 billion, silly. I want to destroy Daredevil, but also there's very real violence, specifically violence against women here, and that I was not expecting that, especially for early Claremont. He does do stuff with that a lot later on, but it's also a lot of being tied up and then having your body swapped with another woman, or losing your powers, or getting tentacle arms. He does a lot of goofy stuff as well. There's not so much of this very like real world crime kind of stuff. So yeah, that was a little bit tonally off, right, from maybe scene to scene. It inconsistent, I think.
It is interesting. They save this woman who's also been, you know, low level torture. Like, it's been pretty bad. And Black Widow's like, come on, let's get your dad and get us some breakfast. And just Daredevil's like, I'll drink to that. I'm starved. Like, what? Like,
it's just so silly. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's a weird juxtaposition because, as you said, like, there's veiled threats of sexual violence earlier in the issue, and yet they're going to end the issue by, like, we did it. We took out the stilt man. Let's go have some breakfast. Like, the juxtaposition of those tones is very jarring.
Yeah. And that's, like, the Saturday morning cartoon ending. That's what I were to call it. Something like the Gummy Bears ending, or Rescue Rangers. Like, okay, we stopped the bad guy. Who's up for pancakes? Like, that's that kind of jump to the id. Oh, I would like to have a yummy meal. They've been fighting all night, and there's so many other questions and concerns. And again, yeah, the gun, the technology that all this was fought over. Let's go find that first. But no, let's just go off and have a meal. Weird.
That being said, that does feel very Claremontian. Let's leave a dangling plot thread that I can come back to later if I feel like it. Now, the next issue is written by Steve Gerber. I don't think Claremont writes another Daredevil issue, but I guess in theory, there's that gun. Maybe, did anyone ever find it? I wonder.
Well, it'll be great. We should do the whole thing where we bring it back years and years later, like the Clone Saga, or like the Skrulls who were hypnotized and turned into cows. A ridiculous, no one ever thought this would come back kind of scene, and then it can become a whole crossover. We're waiting for that.
Absolutely. Any final thoughts on Daredevil 102?
Yeah, again, enjoyed my time with it, mostly in context of the author and seeing, you know, his early days. So yeah, I appreciate it. I'm thankful for the chance that you suggested this issue. Also, again, absolutely not what I expected. You did say that, like, okay, I've got a bunch of issues, and maybe not what you expect. And really, in a way, all of these issues are exactly what I expect from Claremont, and not what I expected.
I would agree with that. As a brief aside, what did you think about the art by Sid Shores?
I enjoyed it for the most part. The colors are especially I guess on the app. I don't know. Maybe it was absorbed by the newsprint at the time and not as vibrant, but really quite intense. I love, I've said this before, a good sunset, nice red skies. So we've got setting sun, oranges and yellows and reds, and some deep blues and stuff like that for the nighttime. So there's just a sense of, I don't know, those warm colors for the most part really make the book feel more kinetic and exciting. And some of these point of view shots, you have like when Daredevil kicks Stiltman from behind and he tumbles in through a window and falling into what would be the camera, and it red and an orange car, just really I don't know, spicy is the wrong word. The colors are doing a lot of work. I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much without the colors. Interesting.
Okay, so we're gonna hold hands and we're gonna jump forward in time 26 years, the 1999 Contest of Champions 2. I'm gonna throw us right into the middle. We're starting with what issue? I think, what did I say? 3 of 5.
3, yeah.
So I'm very curious. First of all, had you read Contest of Champions 1 or Contest of Champions 2? Champions 1 was back in the 80s. It was predates Secret Wars. This is, over 25 years later. Now we're getting Contest of Champions 2. I will be honest, I don't remember if I've ever read all 5 issues or not. I do like Michael Ryan quite a lot. He does, I think, the next issue. Never mind. This issue is by Oscar Jimenez. Obviously, Chris Claremont writing it. So I'm curious what your thoughts were on this. This feels very Claremont in a lot of different ways. And could you figure out why I had selected this issue?
I didn't realize. I think in my head, when you're picking issues, you're just picking eras. I didn't realize that you actually kind of turn those dials with that great of a detail. I didn't know that you I want something from Contest of Champions 2. I want something from this year, I guess, is what you did. And then you kind of... So I guess I'll do my best to...
It is true. Usually I look at a starting point, look at the end point, and there's about 52 years, so I wanted something from around 99, so it'd be nice even 26 years either direction. So that's true. But there's a reason why it's this issue and not issue 1, issue 5, something about this issue.
Is this something like about me? Oh, I mean, my first thought is it's something about like that you like, which would be certain characters, maybe a certain kind of like Spider-Man-esque characters who you love great. I'll just say the Slingers.
That would be correct.
Because it's something you thought I would like. Okay, so it is a you thing. It's not a me thing.
It's a me thing.
I would like.
It's a me thing.
I mean, also like the Iron Man at the time, Kurt Busiek, Sean Chen Iron Man suit, which I know you would also enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when I saw the Slingers here, I'm like, okay, this is one of those things that if you are really someone who wants to get every single appearance of the Slingers, really wouldn't be that hard. They must not have that many appearances, and this would kind of be like one of those little one-offs. They're very kind of a throwaway here fight. But yeah, I did think about you and Paul when they appeared.
So yes, I mean, absolutely, that was a big thing for me. They have not obviously made a lot of appearances, so it was definitely one of those ones where I forgot they were here. They didn't do much. Obviously, they played basketball. That's how they fight. But to go back a second, Contest Champions, there's a pretext. You have all the characters of the Marvel Universe show up. They're going to be fighting each other to find the greatest champions. As they lose, they're supposed to be going home. That's the pretext. As we find out in this issue, there's a lot more going on. As there's Brood involved, there's the Badoon involved. There's random characters that we've, as far as I know, never seen before that are dealing with, I guess, Iron Man and Psylocke. So there's some other stuff there which feels very Claremont. Everything about those characters feels very Claremont. So I'm curious, did this fit what you believe Claremont to be? Did you feel like this leaned into his strengths or his weaknesses as an author, or a little bit of both?
Well, certainly his long-form storytelling, again, I mean, he's a bit of a contradiction. I would say is largely his strength, but yeah, from what you said earlier, his propensity to drop in side stories or allude to things or take a thread and lead us along on that thread for 17 odd issues and then just drop it is a frustration for a lot of people, but at the same time, things not getting always resolved is a part of life. So I guess you could just argue that there's a good reason why a lot of people are very affectionate about his long-form storytelling. This is not long-form. This is more toys crashing into each other. Most of my, just a brief amount of context, most of my familiarity with Contest of Champions is actually from the Fantastic Four World's Greatest Heroes, I think it's called, a cartoon, where they do a Contest of Champions. And yeah, it's a fun episode where, they're just doing different events. I don't remember what all the events are, but it would be something as silly as tag or chess. Although chess is not silly, versus or boxing, right? You can have combat, but you can also have like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. So the boxing thing is kind of fun, and also Claremont loves the basketball thing is kind of fun. Claremont loves a basketball. Claremont loves a baseball game in X-Men comics. So that wasn't too surprising, but yeah, I am going to draw from some of my favorite characters. I'm going to throw them together. I'm going to have a Claremont X-Men villain, the Brood, kind of behind the scenes. He also has read about the Badoon, but he's mostly interested or fixated on the Brood. He loves a Psylocke.
He loves Psylocke. Loves her so much.
I don't know how much familiarity he has with Maddie Franklin, but she's a woman, and he loves that. So, Spider-Man is seen in like one panel, but let's get her in there. And
to get hit by a car, though.
Yeah, but he loves to torture his characters.
He does.
Cable, Cable, not his creation, but made into his creation. Right? He's retconned into the baby Nathan, Maddie and Scott's son. He doesn't do a lot with Cable for the most part. Revolutions. Cable's kind of part of the team, but he doesn't go out of his way. But then you got Scarlet Witch, and you're like, well, Scarlet Witch versus Cable. Most Marvel Universe fans are going to go, well, Cable's going to take it. He's like the Ascani son. This guy can do anything. No. Scarlet Witch is a woman, and he loves a powerful woman, and she takes him out. Storm, you expect to win, but he's like, I'm going to trick you guys. I'm going to tell you this. Thor can win, while he gives him that kind of Baroque, almost overly done Stan Lee approach to the dialogue. Introduce some new characters that aren't going to go anywhere, aren't going to mean anything. He loves a little bit of that. Actually, all the time. Extreme X-Men, his Fantastic Four run, again, also his X-Men run. Interdimensional beings constantly happening in Excalibur. Here's some interdimensional beings who seem really important for 3 issues.
Yeah.
So far, what I'm just kind of trying to do is like this is a lot of Claremont. It's just all in short little bursts. And then Iron Man, which I don't have a lot of familiarity with being drawn to Iron Man, but now of the two of the 3 issues that we are talking about today, Iron Man's in 2 of them, or a kind of an Iron Man's in 2 of them. So he seems interested in Iron Man and Thor, but not almost at all Cap. I don't think I can recall him writing Cap.
No.
I think he writes Cap even less than that. So it's just interesting to see and note that a lot of his favorites are here. And that was fun to kind of play with and read.
I will say a very Claremontian thing is obviously like a lot of narration or recap and kind of condensing a lot of that in. Like when you have those pages of Iron Man being like, I don't really know anything about the Brood. And then Psylocke's like, well, I'll tell you since you know nothing. Although I guess she wasn't really around for a lot of it anyway, but I guess they have files on this stuff. So you start this recap and you have actual art of the Brood and of the previous moments. And then I don't know if there's just a really bad miscommunication or he ran out of pages, because you continue with all of this recap, but instead of us seeing all these pages, now we're just seeing these fights. But we don't get to see any of the fights. We don't get to have any dialogue from these fights. I'm here to read Contest of Champions. And so actual bouts are happening. And I don't get to enjoy any of them. I don't have any sense of dialogue or what happened in these fights. I'm just supposed to go in on faith that Domino won this fight versus Power Man. I don't get to see the fight. I don't get to see Iron Fist beating Colossus. Like, you have these moments, technically that's what the book is supposed to be about, and yet not only are we seeing each one for only a panel, which is fine, I get it, you have a lot to shoehorn in, but you don't even let them talk. You don't get to see any piece of it. I want to see Spider-Man quipping and Beast quipping even for a moment. Like, that would have been fun. But instead we're getting this heavy-handed recap that would have been fine if we actually got to see panels that were, bringing that to life. There's so much telling. There's no show. And so that's really rough. So those few pages, I was just like pulling my hair out, like, this is just narratively poor. If you're an editor, you got to be like, Chris, you got to do something different. Like, this just isn't working. Like, you're not, nothing that you're describing, you're not showing any of it. And then we're not, it really bugged me, obviously.
He absolutely has that also tendency to get fixated on things that he's interested in, that he finds, moving or compelling. And then he can go overwrought with it, for sure. Same thing, even like, you have one page of the Badoon guy having a conversation, like, talking about, I'm a bad guy or whatever, blah, blah, blah. You really only need their space bugs that he won't steal their powers. You don't need anything else from the Brood. But, he's trying to weave in everything he can and, really spend a lot of time recapping his own storytelling in X-Men books from, two and a half decades, 2 decades previously, so that you'll go out and buy those issues that he's not going to be able to make any money off anyway because he doesn't own the property.
I don't know.
Again, the editor's job should have been to get him back on track about Contest of Champions. Where are we? What is this? This is not an X-Men book. And then he goes off to the races. So you're right. I did notice that seemed a little bit odd, but for Claremont, it didn't to me. Like, I get why you feel that way. I was actually more aggravated. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, him using the narration is absolutely expected, but usually he's pairing it with recap art, and so then it fits. I guess my issue is just the way in which this was handled felt discordant. It didn't feel like it made sense.
100%. But again, for me, what I'm trying to do, right, as I'm reading these, is rather than read, I guess that was my failing. You were talking about narrative. You were talking about storytelling. And I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I should have been like paying attention to that, because I'm just doing a Claremont thing. That maybe has helped me actually with these readings to kind of be focused more on that and thinking about him and what he's doing and where he's come from and where he's going. Yeah, you're right. In terms of telling a story, this is awful. But for me to go like, oh, okay, I know he's fixated on the Brood thing, and it is funny in a way because, like, they've run out of pages, and so he's just going to keep narrating a thing that no one needs to know about, right? And it's not even tell, don't show. He's going to show something else. Like, the artist is like, I have to do, right? I need to show Contest of Champions. I would love it if that was the script. If the script was just more Brood images. And that's what editorial got to do. They're like, look, he's not going to see the pages anyway before we print this. Just give us a little bit of Contest of Champions, and we'll put the letterbox over, the narrative boxes over. Yeah, I mean, for me, actually, the thing that was most frustrating for me, this is going to be maybe very weird, and your point is much more salient. But in the conversation, once Iron Man is there with these new appearing characters, and Psylocke has shown up in a bug skin thing, I suppose that's from issue 2, he's trying to scan them. And then there's this gigantic scan box, this blue box, white letters, and you see Iron Man's eye just kind of pushed off to the side, and we get to see the computer AI in his suit narrate all the things it's doing as it's trying to scan them. And again, it really just had to be scanning, inconclusive. But he thought this was funny, or he thought this was interesting. So, like, there's so much attention given to this, and it doesn't do service to the story either.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. I did bump on that because it is a gigantic block of text.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Well, and I think what's worse is that, and this is one of those things, like when I spoke with, the guy who did Comic Craft, Richard Starkings. Like, if this was at least in Iron Man yellow, or if it just looked like an Iron Man, like, it doesn't even look like an Iron Man text bubble, if that makes sense. Like, if it looked...
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those little touches, which I know Starkings doesn't like that they overused it, but if they gussied that up a little bit to make it look more like Iron Man that would have worked. And plus, in Iron Man's own book, we did get short little blasts of that, right? Like the scanning, like we did get those, usually like little green balloons, look more computer oriented. That's how you do it right. You're right. This is just, I guess, him trying to show that he can't do anything with all his tech, and we have to see every system being run. It's a lot. It doesn't need to be here. It did make me realize, I guess he must have written Iron Man. Yeah, I think there was an FF Iron Man brief crossover about a year into Heroes Return. So he must have written that.
Yeah, I remember that. I do recall that. LaRocca drawing Tony. I remember that. Yeah, his little space armor on the blue in the blue area of the moon in that storyline. That's Live Free or Die? Is it Live Free or Die?
No, because Live Free or Die is around issue like 7 or 8, so it's like half a year later. When we have those brief fights that we don't get to see, Daredevil is just choking Firestar with his billy club. Like, that seems pretty rough. Like, that's how he takes her out? Just chokes her?
Well, I guess it's the same Matt from the 70s issue where he just goes around smacking people and going out for coffee afterwards.
Yeah, and like Gambit, like his big thing, he just uses a staff to, just hit Quicksilver in the neck. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, this isn't as fun as it would be nice to see more creative contests like the basketball thing from earlier. Instead, they're all just fights. But yeah, the Quicksilver thing doesn't make any sense. That seems to be, I don't know, just arbitrary.
I do like
it. Is kind of funny though.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, it is kind of funny that Black Panther takes out the entire.
That's what I was going to say.
Warriors team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of like that, and again, I'm curious why. Like, we get a few pages here are just slingers that no one knows, and new warriors, and they play basketball. That's such an odd focus considering you have actual characters, but like more marquee characters get one panel where they don't get to use any dialogue, and yet Ricochet gets to talk and sink a basket and do all sorts of stuff. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, and like it's sad. The character Hornet, who shows up here, his last thing he says here, at least in this issue, is "for what that's worth," and then he disappears. And I believe the next time he makes any appearance in comics, he's a corpse. Because he's in Enemy of the State, because they erroneously think that Wolverine has killed Spider-Man, but he actually killed Hornet. And that's the next time we see his body. Like, it's just an ignoble end. So I'm always sad that that's where that character went. And he was never resurrected, so he's still dead.
Oh no, it's so dark, but well, I didn't know that.
It was 7 years later. I mean, no one was using him, so he was a sacrificial lamb. To those of us who love that character, it was too bad.
It is also weird, again, like, this is a contest of champions, and we're trying to see all the Marvel heroes do their thing, and for him to, these interdimensional beings get thrown in there, also taking away from what other characters can, other panels or space for other characters. I did also want to say, in terms of the art on here, really, really good, like the armor or the alien armor that Psylocke is wearing, really kind of cool. There's clearly a lot of great attention to detail on her. But the Iron Man stuff in here, the colorist with the penciler, the way that the sheen is being drawn in and then also kind of painted with the colors on every part of the armor, the separations with the glowing yellow lines in the armor. The shine on the red is different from the shine on the yellow. And so almost even the one part of his eye, just to the right of that massive, obnoxious narrative box about scanning these aliens, there's a shine or sheen on the glass part that would be covering his eye. So much detail, so beautiful. I should stop talking about this, but he's crouching at the top corner of one of the pages when they're cradling her body, Maddie's body, and having this conversation, and just the way it's drawn, and the proportions, knee up, hand down. I am in love with this Iron Man. Like, he looks so good. This colorist sparkles. The Iron Fist Colossus fight, flashes and sparkles again of the organic metal body. Spider-Man even as well, his costume, it's kind of twinkling sheen in the night. This is 90s computer coloring in a way I don't think I've ever seen before. And if more issues of Contest of Champions are colored like this, I want to read more Contest of Champions.
Well, I mean, that's exciting. So let's point it out. So the digital color and 3D models are by Atomic Paintbrush, who I've never heard of before. I'm curious what kind of collective that was. We should mention, actually, I've mentioned him before as in terms of lettering theory. Richard Starkings did do the lettering on this book, which is a little surprising in some ways. As I said before, Oscar Jimenez did the pencils, and the inks were by Eduardo Alpuente. So I think that the next issue is by Michael Ryan. So I think I don't even know if there's like a stable sense of artists on this book, but I do agree with you. Like the colors, especially, there's some line effects during the Cable Scarlet Witch fight, which I don't know who put them on there, but they add a sense of motion, but they're like roughly kind of over the image, but it does make it seem like Cable's moving even faster, and there's a real sense of motion there. It's very unusual to see the motion lines done this way, but they really add a pop. And at the top of the page that I'm looking at, you also have one of the hexes on his gun, and again, those digital flare effects kind of helping things to blow up, which, again, not used to seeing things this way.
Yeah, for me, I had read this issue before, blurring and motion effects, for me, the biggest memory of seeing that really put into comics was Crisscross. Captain Marvel, incredible use, and not just the blur, right, with a colorist or something like that, really, really rendering it and having the character, their form actually blur into a motion blur.
Oh, really?
So super, really impressive work from Chris Cross that has drawn my attention to the fact that we don't use blurring very often. But yeah, you're right. There's stuff here that gives that frenetic, kinetic energy to this fight that didn't have to be there, but they did. And so there's something about this art team. I would love to see Ryan's art on the next issue, because I do love him as a penciler altogether. So
I did.
Yeah, this is better than I expected it to be, and maybe better than it should be. It is one of those things that's not greater, than the sum of its parts. It is just the parts are good here and there, and when they're good, they're very, very good. But there's a lot of dissonance.
The first issue and the second issue look like they both have Oscar Jimenez on art, and they both have Atomic Paintbrush doing the artwork, the color work. So at least for the first three issues, it's the same team. I'm just double checking now. It looks like issue 4, then you have Michael Ryan on, and then in the 5th issue, it looks like it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I have work to do tonight. I can't, but I kind of want to read these tonight.
You should. I mean, they're high calorie, low. I don't know. They're fun, but there's not a lot of substance there. Yeah. It's one of those things where, again, like, you start to gloss a little bit on the narration because there's so much of it and it's very heavy on it. We happen to read the middle issue, though, right? I mean, if anything, like, we kind of expect that from a middle issue and a first issue. Like, the first issue has to set the groundwork for the rules of the story. By the third issue, you're like, okay, well, now we have to explain some of the pieces that we've brought into play. So I would be curious to read the rest.
Yeah.
Book of the Month Club.
We're already here. You don't have to advertise it. You don't have to.
This is true. Wow. We should go back to 1982 and read the original Contest of Champions.
You know what? Maybe we should. Maybe we could do an episode comparing the two.
I will say that the original one, at least issue 1 of the original Contest of Champions, was a story by Mark Rurenwald, Bill Mantlo, Stephen Grant, with script by Bill Mantlo and pencils by Mr. John Romita Jr.
Wow, love that.
But it's 82, so very early John Romita Jr. At least the first issue.
Yeah, so that's he has, correct me if I'm wrong, from what I've seen of him in the 80s, that he is distinguishing himself by that time. Like, early on, some of his 70s work, he's his own man. He's not his dad, but his work is more in the tradition of that.
I would say he's still
Marvel-style,
very much still his dad at this point.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not as good, but I'm still.
Well, I mean, like it's still him, and you could tell, but it's like some of the choices, he's not quite himself yet. He hasn't settled into the JR you're thinking of.
Right, because I guess by late 80s, he's very distinctly, even mid 80s, he's very more himself. Like when he gets on to X-Men and stuff, and when he's doing Daredevil with...
Yeah, Daredevil and X-Men are his, like, okay, now it's John Romita. Like, I would say, you look at this, you're not there yet.
Okay, well, I'm still happy to look at it at some point.
For sure. So we're going to jump ahead another 26 years now that you have been sufficiently interested in the Contest of Champions. And we're going to talk about the Uncanny X-Men. It's called, I guess, Prelude to a Future Past, or 140.5 as they like to bill it. It's written by Chris Claremont. Artwork is by Salvador Larroca, but not the Salvador Larroca we loved on Extreme X-Men, a more modern version, who is very different. It looks like, I guess he did the pencils and the inks, because Guru FX is credited as the colorist, and then Clayton Cowles is the letterer, at least on this. So I'm very curious what you thought of this, because I don't know why this exists in some ways, because ostensibly it's to be a setup or what comes before the events of the more proper Days of Future Past. But we're using characters that don't show up in that story at all, that are more modern, in modern incarnations. They don't feel like they're far enough in the future either. They don't feel like they're old enough. There's a character who, I don't know who this Bess character is. I don't know if I'm just dumb.
It's Betsy.
Is that who that is?
Yeah, so instead of Kitty, it's Kate. Instead of Betsy, which is a cutesy name, it's Bessie, or Bess.
But she doesn't feel like her at all.
No, not really. No, she's more interested in calling Nightcrawler their lover, but
she feels like a new character. Like she doesn't feel like a pre-existing character.
And she also, I mean, besides the gray hair, there's a shot when Rachel is strung up, she's captured, and they're kind of like hacking her nanobots. Mm-hmm. And the way that Larroca draws her is she's scintillating. She's, again, you can be a scintillating older woman for sure. I'm not saying that they're mutually exclusive. I'm just saying the way she's drawn, she's 20. And doesn't look the right age. But yeah, like she has, you'll see a shot of her in action when she is jumping into the nanobot fight, and she has two glowing psychic knives.
Oh, that's true.
But they're harder to see because you can't distinguish them from her pink body. Mm-hmm. And then also, Sage and Bessie, like the two telepaths, you're going to go in. So I was like, I don't know who this is at first either. But then I just tried to use... So that's my guess. Like, I'm just using context clues, but I think that it's Betsy. It's obviously... It's Claremont. I mean, if he could have, he would have put Psylocke in the Daredevil issue before she was invented.
Yeah, that's right. He would have.
I don't remember. I think she's a 70s creation for Captain Britain and maybe even Alan Moore's creation. Or she might have been invented just before he came on the book. So I don't know exactly when she was invented, but it is earlier than I thought. So anyway, doesn't matter for our conversation. You're right about everything you said. None of this seems to set up in any meaningful way Days of Future Past. Certainly the art style is not even really trying to. The colors are not trying to kind of play into that or connect to Byrne's original work. Iron Man is there, but apparently a female descendant of Iron Man, but we don't really know who she is. But
again, that makes no sense because all these characters are not that old. And so how is Iron Man gone and has like an adult child?
Yeah. And again, like even the costumes, besides Nightcrawler, who's in his classic costume, they're Extreme X-Men costumes because I guess Larroca likes that stuff.
Which is fine, but and I guess it's not Claremont's fault. Like none of that is actually his fault. The fact that Larroca is not making these characters look older is on Larroca, not on Claremont. Like everything about this is in the future. This is supposed to be, if Rachel's here, it has to be at least like 20 years past like the quote unquote normal kind of timeline. But none of it makes sense because it's all gobbledygook. Because like he's using characters in ways that we've seen them used later, but not in a way that connects with the original story. In some ways, the worst disservice that this story does is being packaged with the original story. Like you have the original story, which is so much better and so coherent and so concise. Although I would argue that the animated series did it better in terms of because I think it was able to be more narratively concise and having an actual time traveler as opposed to just shunting some, consciousness through someone's body. I think it just makes more sense when it was Bishop. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I feel like having it right next to a classic, an absolute classic of the genre that pushed stories in a certain way that is just so perfect in so many ways, and have this before it doesn't connect well, has characters that have no relation to it. I mean, Rachel, again, is in both, but she doesn't look this way in the next one because the whole idea of her being a hound came later. There was a later idea of Claremont's that wasn't in the original text. And so it's like he's just trying to mush it all together. The fact that Phoenix is still around, kind of, but, like, doesn't help anybody, like... I'm left with more questions and not comfortable ones. And again, we're dealing with characters that we don't even see in the other ones. So, like, what about all the characters who we see in the real Days of Future Past? They're not even mentioned here. Are they around? Like, why aren't they all together? Like, I just found this frustrating. Like, I just don't know why, if he's going to go back to his own well, why doesn't he respect his own text? I just don't understand. Like, this feels like someone else said, I could do a cool, fun story in Days of Future Past. I don't have to really worry about the details. This feels like something that, someone who doesn't respect continuity would do, not Claremont. Anyways, I'm done.
No, but I mean, even LaRocca, like, the design of the Sentinels doesn't quite match up with the Sentinels that also appear in the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
The Hound costume also doesn't look exactly like eventually the Hound costume will be when it's created.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of... I'm uncomfortable with... I don't want to say if this is intentional or not, but there's a lot of sexualization of her. The way that she's posed, there's a lot of kind of very male gazy kind of stuff going on there for a character that is very young and is a sapphic character, and that's only really addressed and hinted at kind of at the end when Kate talks about Rachel as her love, which is a very long kind of meta-textual Claremont thing that he wanted to do and wanted to have them in a relationship and couldn't do it, and had to make hints at them being, like, loving each other, or he does the same thing with Ileana and Kitty when they're roommates, where he tries to kind of say these bosom buddies, but he can't say the stuff maybe he wants to say.
Mm-hmm.
But again, very jarring because not only is, like you pointed out, the visual of Rachel once she's free from this burden, this curse, it's the mulleted version that appears in Excalibur, but not the Rachel in the green jumpsuit with the short kind of bob cut, which if you're like you're saying, reading this collection, as you flip 2 or 3 pages, you go, oh, let's see where she ended up here. No face tattoos. Fine, she hid them, okay. And I guess she just cut her hair immediately afterwards. So, but why not try to make it a little more syncopated? Why not try to make the worlds feel cohesive? The Iron Man costume is basically his Matt Fraction Iron Man armor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even like a really radical, futuristic take on that. So, yeah, I don't know how much more I can add. You already said, the best of it. But it's not even really fun. It's mostly a guessing game, like what is going on most of the time. Is this Extreme X-Men?
Well, that's a good point. Like, what is the purpose of the story? To get Rachel out of the Hound gear so that she can be in Days of Future Past? I guess that's...
Yeah.
But, like, that wasn't enjoyable. So, if that was the goal, I don't think it did it in a clear and concise way. I think it just made it confusing. And, it made me ask questions I don't want to ask as a reader. Like, when you read the original Days of Future Past, it feels very hopeless. They don't have many mutants left. The ones that are left have diminished abilities, or they have inhibitor collars, that kind of stuff. Whereas these guys, they're using Gateway's teleportation technology. They have advanced Iron Man tech. Like, it's harder for me to believe that they're, not far away from the main Days of Future Past story. What happens to all these guys then? Like, that's not explained. Like, in the original Days of Future Past, we see Nightcrawler's tombstone. So, like, I just don't get it. Like, if they even killed him here, I'd be like, okay, well, we're setting things up. I get it. There's no setup. It's almost like this should be 140.1, and there's going to be 8 more of these before we get to the actual one, right? Like, it just doesn't feel... This feels like the beginning of a series to get to the original Days of Future Past, because as just a one-shot, it fails completely. Because it doesn't set anyone up properly. I guess maybe Rachel, but again, as you said, I guess she has to still, protect her tattoos. But even at the end, we see if the Hound, sorry, not the Hound, if the Ahab is about to get her again, how does anything change? I don't understand. Like, he's got her, so he's going to make her into a Hound again. So that doesn't make sense. Like, how does this actually set up where she is in the original Days of Future Past? I guess he's just trying to reconcile what he did later with what he did originally, but it doesn't fit. And making it do this way just makes the original one make no sense. Don't make your legendary piece of work not make sense. It's perfect. Don't make it worse. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, even the Kate appearing only in the last page. Why isn't this story about Kate? Because that's what the story's about, for all intents and purposes. So that kind of is, and I love how it transitions into her narrative. It's Iron Person saying, crazy as it sounds, after all I've said, me too. And then it cuts, as it were, or kind of warbles into me three, kiddo. I'm Kate Pride. Like, wait, what? Introducing a character on the last page, even if it's a prelude, you have to assume Chris Claremont. Every comic is somebody's first comic. That's the thing, right? That's the shooter thing. It also becomes like the Claremont mantra. He loves to recap. We just talked in Contest of Champions 2, issue 3, and we just recap. It's not necessary in any way over the storyline. And we can't get any kind of integration or storytelling or introduction to Kate here that helps us set us up for what's about to happen as you flip over 2 pages. And the narration says, this is New York, the Big Apple. Once upon a time, it was a nice place. And now we move into the narrative, the thought bubble, the thought balloon of the same Kate Pride. Not even clearly wearing the same jumpsuit. Like, you'd be hard-pressed, or the same haircut. Like, it's always some kind of, I don't know, it's always wrong. And it feels like fanfic, I agree with you, fanfic that he wrote for himself, which would suggest he never had a plan to write this. This is not part of his notebooks. This is something he threw together. And possibly either it was at the last minute, they said, we need a filler story. Chris, can you give us something? He said, well, I'm working on the 6-issue Days of Future Past prologue. I don't know if I have time. And the editor, I don't know any of this is true. And the editor said, you know what? We're actually going to cut that. We don't have time. We don't have the budget for it. How about you just take issue 1 and put it in there? And he goes, I guess I got to change the last page of that issue so I can bridge it ahead of time. This is my, headcanon. This is what I'm imagining happened behind the scenes, and blaming the editor and trying to excuse Chris because it's hard for me to reconcile that this is the same storyteller.
It is an interesting study, though, in trying to understand when an issue bothers you or things don't always work, how much of it do you blame on the editor, how much of it do you blame the writer, and how much do you blame the artist? Because they all contributed here. And so to making this kind of an odd mess. Now, I try to think, okay, if I take the original Days of Future Past out of this and just focus this in a vacuum, even though it doesn't exist that way, in a vacuum, does it tell an interesting story? And again, my argument there is I don't think it does, because it's all hinged on saving Rachel, but then, which is fine, but they don't even really save her. It's really the fact that the Phoenix had always saved her. Okay, fine. That's fine. But then you just put her right back to where she was before. So, how was that a resolution? I don't understand. And I guess that's because he's boxed in by his future story. Then don't write the story if you're boxed in. Or figure out a better way, or use different characters, or just do a different thing. It just felt like, maybe just run out of space or time. But again, and it was such a weird, inconclusive ending. She's just on the ground there. I guess they just teleported her away, and she's naked there. Again, more sexualization for no reason. Even that last page, from an artistic standpoint, why is Kate's face on the left? It should be on the right, no? It just...
You should be looking towards the page turn, taking you into the next story.
Yeah.
Instead of looking away from the story, right?
It's just... And it's not where your eyes want to go, right? And then it's you go through it, and then you have to go all the way to the left-hand side of the page, and then drip down, and it just... Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it makes a lot of sense. I guess it needs to be that way because of the last panel, but it just feels like a bit of a mess.
Because your eye in the top left-hand corner with the speech bubble goes, okay, and then you see a human head just below it, and your mind goes, this character is talking. And so you start reading it, and then you look over to the next connected bubble, and then you see the tail leave the person's head and then go all the way over to a panel that's on the right-hand side. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is going against, the logic of reading a comic book too. Yeah, so it breaks all norms, all sense. It breaks the format in some ways. Maybe their goal is just to be disruptive. I don't know, but I think instead, I think there may be some required concessions made. I wouldn't be surprised. This wouldn't be the first time that Claremont was put in a box, considering how much of this stuff he loves and created and brought into being.
Mm-hmm.
It's also interesting because he is kind of, okay, this is the wrong word to use. He's not always perfect at this, but he has done a lot of retconning himself.
Yes.
Most famously, the Magneto retcon, which made that character so much more interesting and compelling, and, Marvel forced him to make him a villain with X-Men, 1991's X-Men. He didn't want to do it, but he's like, if it's going to happen, it might as well be me. And he made up another retcon to kind of like explain the Magneto retcon. And so you have Hickman's famous example of like a beautiful retcon with Moira X, where really good retcons are supposed to dance between the raindrops. Or if you can do it right, it was always there. Mm-hmm. You can trick the reader into thinking it was always there, and it actually should. If it wasn't there, the world would be wrong. Like it's really making things feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the Magneto retcon does that. I think the Moira X1 does that. This is everything a retcon should not be. Right? This is superfluous. This is beyond superfluous. This is damaging to the flow and feeling and value of the story that's going to come after it. It doesn't set anything up. It doesn't improve anything. Instead of feeling like it's required reading, it feels like this should go away and just, not be on the app anymore. There's so many other comics that aren't on the app. This one doesn't have to be there. I mean, where's all the X-Men issues?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because, like, I try to look at it and say, like, there is some craft here, though. Like, it's not, like, it's just...
It's not garbage.
It's not garbage. It just...
doesn't need to be.
No, it doesn't feel additive. It feels like it's an odd, not subtractive either, but it's not really adding, it's not enriching my appreciation of the mythos. It's making me ask questions that I shouldn't ask. Now, one thing I will say about the art, on the second last page, I believe, there's a shot of Rachel's face, and it's a really good face. It's because it looks so youthful, but so optimistic and but also very innocent. Like, she's done horrible things as the Hound, and in this moment that she has belief and hope again, I really like that one moment. I just wanted to make mention of that one particular thing I did like by LaRocca.
Yeah, I don't think I agree. I think it's important to be sober about this and acknowledge some great color work. There's some great work there from LaRocca himself, and some great compositions and things that really flow, and a little bit of mind-bending stuff once you enter this psychic realm and cutting open a nanobot, and you get to see all the little mechanics inside that he's thought of, and that creativity. But yeah, like what you said before, in ways in which the artist is maybe not working at his best, and it underserves and the story and contradicts itself. Yeah, it's, instead of a wonderful harmony with inker and artist and colorist and letterer and writer, etc., and editor, it just feels like even when things work, it's just so much dissonance that it's hard to enjoy this as much as one might. And again, highlighted by the fact that these two authors here, the artist and this writer, with Extreme X-Men and other projects, have a long history. We're quite well together. So I don't know. This is maybe a question we can't answer, but all I can say is it's an interesting journey from the Daredevil to a Contest of Champions, and this is the X-Men content, right? Like, this is the X-Men book that you picked for us to read. Contest of Champions 2 has X-Men characters. It has a ton of X-Men lore, again, kind of just shoehorned into it. So we, and there are distinct and notable female characters throughout that often overshadow their male counterparts. So and there's lots of narrative boxes. There's retconning. I forgot to even mention the musical. I mean, I brought it up, but I didn't actually get into any detail in the Daredevil issues. So there's no time anymore, but it references to art and culture and things that he likes and movies and illusions. So all of that is in here across all those three issues. But when you said we would read Claremont, I had no idea what I was in for. From your choices, what I was going to get. It's quite a road. I don't know how you feel about this.
It is a weird road. It's interesting. There was a few options for the 2025 pick, I will say. There has been, I think it's over now, but they're not all on the app. They did do a Wolverine and Kitty Pryde miniseries, which is supposed to kind of be a sequel to the original one. But I having read it recently, I was like, I don't know if I want to read just one of these issues. What was nice to me about looking at more modern content was the fact that at least with this one-shot story, it was all there, as opposed to giving you like part 1 of 5 or part 3 of 5, like I did with Contest of Champions. So that's part of why I kind of zeroed in on this particular piece of work. And plus, I needed some X-Men.
It's fair, yeah. I have stopped actually on my app. Speaking of like LaRocca and giving praise where praise is due, this building that he has drawn that's kind of arcing from the Earth up into an infinite, series of galaxies. The perspective of it, the detail, the concept of it, really quite breathtaking. Really great shot of Sage kind of floating down in her psychic form. So this may be the standout art for this issue, and it also follows the nanite cutting thing with Betsy or Bessie. So really kind of in the middle here, some really incredible pages, very large, almost splash, but not quite splash pages. So maybe if there was more of this, I think I would really be more enamored with the issue.
So
anyway,
I don't think we've done this before, but I might start doing this now. Of the 3 that we read, which was the most enjoyable experience?
Well, as a story with a beginning, middle, and an end, Daredevil. I think I enjoyed Contest of Champions more, but it was only because of, again, like the meta-analysis, only because of like the looking at the odd Claremontian, I don't know, tendencies, proclivities. But the better story is the Daredevil. In my opinion. What do you think?
I think I would agree. I think Daredevil was overall the most enjoyable experience. If he had written more Daredevil issues after it, I probably would have been like, I'd like to read some more of this, see what that's like. Again, I don't believe there was, but I would be more inclined to do so. Contest of Champions, if I'm likely to read the rest of the series, it's less to see what Claremont did and more to see what the artist did with what they were given. Kind of see what they brought it to life, because there is so much to enjoy there in terms of, as you said, like the visual effects at the time, what they were playing with. There's some really interesting kind of visual things that they're doing, but the story, I might just kind of be more of a skim in terms of not necessarily maybe reading every word per word, because there's so many of them.
Yeah, the art for Contest was a big factor for me as well, because I enjoyed the art in that more than I enjoyed the Daredevil art, even though the Daredevil colors were quite striking. It is interesting that even though Claremont's writing's better on Daredevil and it's kind of more scattershot in Contest, the art is its own thing that makes it more compelling. But if I picked this off the shelf in '99 and I'd spent my money on it, I would probably be, while still enjoying the art, I'd be pretty frustrated with what was kind of not really a Contest of Champions, and like the contest that we see, like you said, is the slingers getting dunked on, and then that's it. I'm like, so I don't even get to. And again, my brain at the time would have been like, I want to fight. I don't want a basketball match. So that would have made me feel even more frustrated.
It's an interesting subversion. I'm curious,
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I do like it. Again, it's more frustrating only because you don't really get much else of any of the actual kind of fights. And as I said, you get these brief panels of which that's all you see, and you don't get to hear any of it. So I think that's what makes that part of it more frustrating.
And it's two teams, so it makes sense. There's something youthful for them to play. I think if maybe Chris was, or the author, the writer was more into video games for 99, I think it would make a lot of sense for the two teams to be playing PlayStation together, and like kind of a video game face-off would have really reached out to the youthful readers at the time, and like, wow, they're like me. But basketball will do. That's kids like basketball.
Doesn't that feel like a moment where they could have used Mojo, though? Like, that would have been fun. Because, like, he loves Mojo. You know, he used Mojo.
Yeah, he does.
He loves using Mojo. Like, if you somehow shoehorn in Mojo for at least that story and make it like a video game, like, I think that could be really compelling.
Or even arcade. And Claremont loves arcade even more than he loves Mojo. So
True.
That would have been fine. Although he doesn't really do video games with arcade. He really is into the analog pinball stuff and Funhouse.
Exactly.
And it's not until, like, what is it, Brian K. Vaughan, who in Ultimate X-Men, I think he's the first one to be like, he's like, he got zappers or whatever. Like, he's a virtual reality guy, and then they later have that adapted into the Marvel Universe.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and then, of course, we get X-Men 97 that really does that, the Moj Tendo or whatever it was called.
Yeah, that's right.
Which was fun, yeah.
Okay, well, Nate, thank you so much for this odd journey. I think next time we'll go back to doing an artist. But you know, what I thought was interesting about Claremont is that he's been working in comics for 50 years. Like, going from beginning, middle, and end like we usually do, it's a much wider swath. Like, we could easily next time be like, okay, we did a 26-year jump from 73 to 99. We could just do a 13-year jump to 86. Then we're in prime X-Men material, right? So, like, we could do Claremont again, but start in 86 instead. And instead of looking at, 99, maybe we look at late 2010s, which he did a bunch of books at that point. He was doing Nightcrawler at some point. So, like, I would be interested to come back to Claremont at some point and kind of dance within the raindrops of what we've already done, because he has such a long and expansive career.
That'd be great. I would love to do that.
Wow, you just want to see some 80s X-Men in there.
I do, but I also would love to make Paul read more Claremont. That'd be great to get him involved if at all possible. But if not, I'm happy to do it without him.
Yeah,
you know how we feel.
It's tough. It's getting him to do Book of the Month is enough, let alone a Creator Spotlight episode. But we can try.
Why does every panel have to tell me what's in the panel? I can just people watch the panel. Like, no, you have to do both.
Can you imagine Paul reading these books?
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I think he'd get really frustrated. Yeah, with contests, I think he would be like, enough of this riffraff.
Maybe he'd be into it, because again, it was in and around a period that he does like.
Well, then, as a gift, we should just go to a comic store, and when we go on our next road trip, we have to remember this and not tell him. We're going to go find a 50-cent bin, and we're going to find that issue of Contest 2, Issue 3, and we're going to just give it to him and say, read this. And he's going to go, what is this? And we're just going to smile and say, you should read this, and not explain ourselves. And then see it. Maybe in the hotel he'll actually do it. I don't know. Maybe he'll fall asleep. It'd be funny to even see how many pages it would take.
Yeah.
And have him constantly question, like, why am I reading? And then he might go, oh, the Slingers. Oh, that's cool. And we're like, keep reading. And just see what he does. I think that's all it would take, though, is getting to the Slingers. He'd be like, all right. I see what you guys did here. That maybe is enough. The art's good. Yeah, he might read further than we think.
Yeah. Okay, well, for those out there listening, thank you so much for listening and downloading this episode. You can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, listen to us on Spotify, and you can also rate us on various different podcatchers that are out there, so please do so. As I said, you can email us at comicshenanigans@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening to this episode. Next week, we're going to have Pat Olive on the show. He's going to be breaking down some of his work on the Unlimited Access miniseries from, I believe, 97 or 98. And we're also going to talk about his work on the 52 miniseries for DC, or calling it a miniseries is disingenuous. It's a 52-issue maxi series. If there's ever been a proper title of, maxi series is the right one. So make sure to join us for that. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.